So tomorrow, August 6th, marks an important anniversary in human history. An anniversary which many deemed the dawn of a new age. August 6, 1945, at 8:16 a.m., Japanese time, an American B-29 bomber named the Enola Gay drops the world's first atom bomb used in wartime over the city of Hiroshima. And although there's no way for sure to know the exact count, it's approximated that 100,000 people were killed and another 35,000 were injured. This was the dawn of the atomic age. The phrase atomic age was coined by William L. Lawrence. He was a New York Times journalist who became the official journalist for the Manhattan Project. That's the project which developed the first nuclear weapons. He witnessed both the Trinity test, which was the first detonation of a nuclear weapon outside of White Sands, New Mexico, and he also witnessed the bombing of Nagasaki just days after the bombing of Hiroshima in 1945. In the book, The Making of the Atomic Bomb, author Richard Rhodes, in describing the reality of the atomic age and those at war with each other, he says, both sides might work out from fear of the other, but some on both sides would be working also paradoxically, believing they were preparing a new force that would ultimately bring peace to the world. Mankind thinks that they have the answer for peace. But the Bible tells us the way of peace they have not known. I want to spend my time today talking about why mankind will never find lasting peace. And there are, in fact, many reasons, but I am just going to talk about two reasons here today. Reason number one, mankind will never find lasting peace because although many have knowledge, few have wisdom. In 1949, U.S. Atomic Energy Commission Chairman David Lilienthal, he stated that atomic energy is not simply a search for new energy, but more significantly, a beginning of human history in which faith in knowledge can vitalize man's whole life. Faith in knowledge. A vast array of the most brilliant minds of the 20th century had faith in their knowledge. They thought they were contributing to a project that would bring lasting peace to mankind. And many of these brilliant scientists were Jewish. So during the late 30s and 40s and early 40s, they fled their home countries that were being invaded. They were fearing imprisonment, or worse yet, execution. Execution from those wanting to extinguish their race from the face of the earth. They fled to the relative safety of the universities in England, the universities in the United States. And all these scientists had an extraordinary amount of knowledge, exceedingly high IQs. Yet with all of that, they lacked wisdom. They experimented and grew greatly in knowledge regarding atomic structure and subatomic particles, but where was their wisdom? Where was the application of their knowledge? They believed that if they could harness the energy of a nuclear reaction, that they could weaponize it, which would in turn create peace based on everyone's fear of using that very weapon. And you know, on the surface, you can almost convince yourself that that makes sense. But that, of course, assumes that everyone in the equation is rational and recognizes their mortality and fears their own destruction. And it almost seems to make sense, but that is human rationale. Not to make light of the situation, but in describing knowledge and wisdom, author Miles Kington seemed to really drive this point home for me. He describes it as knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad. James makes a more serious distinction between earthly wisdom and righteous wisdom, so let's look at that in James 3. James 3, verses 13 through 18. James 3:13. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by good conduct that his works are done in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast and lie against the truth. This wisdom does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, demonic. For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are. Verse 17, but the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. Now the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. He's saying here that there's a clear difference between what humans convince themselves as being wise, that which is earthly, sensual, demonic, and the wisdom from above. It's pure. It's peaceable. Many have knowledge, but few have wisdom. Mankind will never find lasting peace because although many have knowledge, few have wisdom. And reason number 2, mankind will never find lasting peace because we are still at war with God. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean that we're still at war with God? We've been at war with God since the Garden of Eden. Remember that choice? The choice of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil rather than the choice of the tree of life. Since that time, mankind has been in opposition to God's way. But mankind, at least those that accept and submit to God's way, will ultimately be redeemed. When that day finally comes, humanity will be taught the law of God, the evil influence of Satan will be put away, and most will be receptive to learning about God and living by His law of peace and love. We're told that mankind will be changed to become receptive to God's way. The prophet Ezekiel tells us that it will require a heart that is soft and willing to yield to God. So let's look at that in Ezekiel 36. Ezekiel 36, verse 25. Then I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean. I will cleanse you from all your filthiness and from all your idols. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will take the heart of stone out of your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. Verse 27, I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you will keep my judgments and do them. This is picturing a time when mankind will finally be reconciled to God's way. God cares about mankind. He's not uninvolved or far away, as some would like to put it. He's patiently working to complete His plan. He will allow humanity to come to the brink of annihilation, which, thanks to the knowledge of our scientists that we heard about earlier, that can now happen. ultimately, mankind can obliterate themselves off of this planet. But guess what? Just prior to that happening, at that exact time, Jesus Christ will come in majestic splendor and glory to establish a world of peace, for a lasting peace that will never end. Let's look at Revelation 22. Revelation 22, verses 1 and 2. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding from the throne of God and of the Lamb. And verse 2, in the middle of its street and on either side of the river was the tree of life, which bore 12 fruits, each tree yielding its fruit every month. The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. So there it is. We are finally given back the opportunity to partake of the tree of life. That pictures a time when mankind, those who have joined the very God family, are no longer at war with each other, and they are no longer at war with God. Mankind will never find lasting peace because right now we are still at war with God. Martin Luther King Jr., in his Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech, this is December 10th, 1964. He said, I still believe that one day mankind will bow before the altars of God and be crowned triumphant over war and bloodshed. And nonviolent, redemptive good will proclaim the rule of the land. And the lion and the lamb shall lie down together, and every man shall sit under his own vine and fig tree, and none shall be afraid. I still believe that we shall overcome. The truth is, one day, mankind will overcome. Mankind will one day have peace. Mankind will one day be rescued from war and senseless violence and bloodshed. But it's not mankind that will rescue themselves. On its own, humanity lacks the divinely revealed knowledge of how to bring peace. It's ultimately going to require the return to earth of Jesus Christ. And he will set up the kingdom of God to bring true, just, lasting peace. Remember the prophecy about the Messiah in Isaiah 9, verse 6. You don't need to turn there. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. He will bring with him the administration of true justice and the pathway to real peace. He shall judge between the nations and rebuke many. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Isaiah 2:4. That time is coming. Mankind will never find lasting peace until that time comes. So as we draw closer to the fall holy day season, focus not only on what God's plan means for us as we strive to become first fruits, kings, priests, but remember also that God's plan will ultimately include all of mankind, all of those who are willing to submit to his way. A time when righteous wisdom will rule. A time when we will no longer be at war with God. What an incredible time that will be. I wish you all a fruitful fall holy day. season.